Fans been, asking Dawn would she return to En Vogue after announcing that she was homeless for the past 3 years, living out her card. So we're gonna jump to the comment section of people she responded to. This person here said, "Thank you for sharing your journey, Dawn. You're amazing. I love you. Please be safe out there. Question: will you be returning back to En Vogue since Max had? Just curious. God bless you." All right, Dawn responded saying, "You're welcome. Thanks for watching. Not going back to En Vogue. Should have stayed gone when they wrongfully terminated me the first time. Going viral recently opened doors for the right opportunities for me." All right, this is another person, Miss Miko Monroe, 504, asked her, she said, "Please get one of the groups together and tour. Love you. You're an icon." She, Dawn responded saying, "I'm not interested, but thanks." All right, this person, DeWitt Lawrence, said, "I have a house in Indianapolis you can stay in that I was fixing up for traveling nurses. It's a 2-bedroom, 1 bath bungalow on the east side. I know Indiana is not Vegas or LA, but at least you can stretch out and relax." Dawn responded, "Lawrence, you have a beautiful heart. To even offer says a lot um, about you, but I am not in the need of a home yet. My car life is part of my journey. I am building the future. Will include my beach home in the near future." All right. So as you know, Dawn and Max had split from the other two, which resulted to Sydney Herron and Terry Ellis suing Max and Dawn for the name En Vogue. So I wanted to jump back and get into that a little bit too. Wanted to backtrack and get into that for the people that didn't know. Like me, I didn't know. I know she had left the group, but I didn't know that they was battling for the name or whatever. So I wanted to dip into that a little bit. Just to refresh people's memory for the people that do know and for the people that didn't know. So the first video we're gonna get into um Maxine Jones and Dawn Robinson getting interviewed by SS Hollywood years back. So I wanted to jump into this video before we jump into the other two.
Robinson and Maxine Jones.
It's Dawn Robinson and Maxine Jones.
You are En Vogue.
Yes, absolutely.
We are En Vogue. It's crazy. There's a lot of division. There's a lot of separation. There's a lot of sides over here and over there. It's we're just doing what we do. We all earned the name. We all built the name together, all four of us. And Cindy and Terry decided to do their own thing. So Maxine and I, it was natural for us to do the same. And I got wind of a lot of things that was happening over the years, and I just got fed up. And I left in December. It was my last show with the group as a whole. Max was still there. And then by April, May, she was like, "I'm out too.
I can't do it anymore."
Yeah.
Well, let's go back. Dawn, you left the group in 1997.
97, yeah.
Now, this was really at the height of your fame, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Why did you leave?
There was a lot going on. It was like, we weren't making the kind of money that I thought we should make at the caliber of group that we were.
Right.
2 pennies per girl just to me was insane.
So you didn't like the
after
deal
the
that was
second-
cut.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, the
It
deal
was really
from the
bad.
beginning. The first album was, you go in and you start and you don't know what kind of success you're going to have. And once you have that success, and we were at 3 times platinum on the first album.
It was time to go back in and renegotiate.
And we never did.
Yeah.
Right.
You didn't negotiate.
No,
We didn't.
no.
No.
So what we got on the first album, we got on the second album. And the second album was even bigger than the first. And we're still getting the same money. And it was ridiculous. So I was like, you start waking up to see things. You're looking at your royalty statements. You don't understand the language of the contract that you initially signed because we're not attorneys. We don't go in knowing these things right away. We did ask questions of our attorney, but things get a little confusing. And by the time you wake up and understand what's going on, you've already signed the contract.
So were all the girls frustrated about the money?
No, it was
they were fine with
mainly
it.
Dawn and I.
Yeah.
You said Cindy and Terry were
They were
fine.
They were fine with it.
Yeah.
They really were. They didn't want to negotiate.
Right.
The producers had total control of the group. They put all of us together, so they were in control. And we did what they
Whatever
said.
goes. For
Yeah.
that, whatever they said went.
Were there discussions between the four of you? Hey guys, if we all band together, maybe
I
we
think
can.
Dawn was the
get fair
first one that
salary.
Right.
Dawn was the first one that yelled about it. This
Like,
is not
yeah.
cool. Something is wrong. We have to do something.
Well, the balance was off. It was like, okay, we're doing all the work.
Right.
I'm sorry, we're doing all the work, but everybody else is making all the lion's share of the money, and we're not making enough. And it's like I said, the caliber of artists we should have been making a lot more. It's not that no one else should have been making it. We should have been making the same. And I started to see other artists come into the business for the first time. And I'm like,
And they were
how is it that you're so successful and so rich, and you just got here, and we've been here for like 3 years, and second album, and there's nothing here. And I just
So Dawn, after you left, in that
Yeah.
decade following, did you have any connection, communication with the group at all? Did you speak to Maxine
I would
or
come in
Terry
and out
or Cindy?
intermittently because we would try to we would try to talk to get it back together, but if everybody's not willing to see the same thing at the same time, it was really hard for me to kind of convince them, kind of like you can lead a horse to water, but everybody had to see it in their own time.
Right. So Maxine, you didn't leave with Dawn because
No, because I wanted to stay and make it work. This was my livelihood,
she
you
was
know.
afraid.
So
She was
and
afraid.
I, well, yeah, we all were afraid,
Yeah.
you know. I think it was me who brought the attorney in to help us figure it out and get what we needed.
Right.
And but everybody wasn't on the same page.
Okay, so were you kind of estranged from the group, Dawn, at that point?
I
or
don't
were you-
think. Well, it was kind of the group's way or the highway, and I just
And
thought,
things like
that's
that.
not a compromise. Yeah, I was.
Yeah.
We were offered. I was kind of ambushed, I would say, to go to this meeting. We got to the creative, what I thought was a creative meeting, which would have been the EB4 album, and it became the EB3 album. Remember?
Right,
And
exactly.
I got to the meeting, and I was offered a contract. You sign this contract, a 2-year contract, or get out. And I was like, wait a minute.
So you were given
There's
an
no
ultimatum.
compromise.
was given an
Ultimatum, yeah. And to
ultimatum.
me, that's not a compromise. It's not a choice. Because I kept saying, well, what if I give a year? Because at that time, I had a deal on the table. I was conversating with Dr. Dre, but I knew that my priority was En Vogue, that I had to finish that. And that's exactly what I was doing. And at that point, we came to the meeting to talk about we're about to release this album. What's going to be our first single. We had a couple more songs to finish for the record, but basically we were done with the album. And now we have to come together to decide what's going to be our first single, what, our look's going to be for this new project. And we get there, and Sylvia Rohn, who was the head of our company, was there offering me a contract. And I was like, wait a minute, did you guys know, Cindy, Terry, and Max, did you guys know about this before I got here? And
No, we kind of were all ambushed. When we
Yeah.
all got to the meeting, we were all given that ultimatum, basically, to commit to the next project, 100%, whatever that was,
Right.
for 2 years or something like
But
that.
Sylvia already knew that I was committed because the album was already finished, almost, like I said. So I had already committed to that. And she knew that I had committed to that album. So it was almost finished. I was like, what is this
And
about?
she had already put so much into it,
Yeah,
too.
I was there every day on time. I was there with the girls. We were almost complete with it, and she offered that contract because she knew my solo rights were gone. Like, okay, how do I get to the bottom of it quickly? She offered Terry and I a solo project. Terry did her album, and then she wanted to go back and do an En Vogue album. And I had already started my project. I'm like, wait a minute, you told me I could do my solo album. Like, Terry did hers. Terry's album didn't work, and so she was like, no, we're gonna scratch Dawn's album. We're gonna go back in and do an En Vogue album. I was like, wait a minute. You messed with the wrong girl, because I took it very serious to do a solo album just like Terry did hers. Why are you going to scratch my album? And just like, okay, we'll come back to you later. I was like, no.
And Maxine,
Wait
you
a minute.
left in 2001.
I left in 2001.
What was the deciding factor?
Well,
for you
because
to leave?
it was the same team, the same commitment to the producers.
Control situation.
Yeah, and we had management that represented us and the producers, and it was a huge conflict of interest. And the girls wanted to stay with that management. And I just couldn't do it.
And that's the thing, man. That's what was going on with these groups. You know what I mean? A lot of them wasn't really getting paid what they was worth. That's what TLC was complaining about. Now they had split the group in two. Now you had, Sydney and the other chick. They was they was torn with the group with the name En Vogue, and these two was traveling with the name En Vogue. You know what I mean? So they pretty much battled it out in court. You know what I mean? Who was gonna have the rights to the name. So let me pull this video up too. Hold on. Sydney and Terry had sued the other two for the rights for the name, and they won. I think it was $1 million lawsuit or something like that, and rights to the name. So let's go ahead and get into this. This is an interview they did with Cafe Mocha Radio exclusive. So let's go ahead and get into this.
MZ, Huffington Post, you've been on every news outlet in the world, but nobody has heard from En Vogue since the lawsuit. So we are here with Cindy Herron and Terry Ellis of En Vogue.
Hello.
Congratulations.
Hey, thank you.
Y'all the winners. Now, what is the winners of what?
Well, you know what? It's just it's so weird. Because unfortunately it's not something we're celebrating.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's a real sad situation for us. However, we had to handle our business and try and protect the brand as best we could.
Business is business.
So it is the En Vogue trademark.
Well, what happened? I mean, first of all, why did you guys have to sue?
Actually, it wasn't a lawsuit per se. Initially, we did have to file a lawsuit, but our operating agreement calls for arbitration. If there are any disagreements involving the business, that we would all agree to arbitrate.
Okay.
And so that was the agreement that we all signed. So we had a day of arbitration, and there were some issues, Maxine, we had some issues. Ultimately, it boiled down to choice of management, and we were in disagreement. So Maxine, was being upset, decided to not come take any more shows, and a lot of offers were coming and going, and she wanted us to first iron out the management issues, but we couldn't get those ironed out in the meantime. We were still disagreeing about how to handle that part of the business. So she decided not to come take any more shows, and we asked her repeatedly, please come do these shows with us.
Right.
And her response was no.
So you guys had a slew of shows set up.
Money.
All right,
We always,
money.
we're always working. We always do shows, and we constantly get offers.
And you couldn't agree about a manager?
That's correct.
And so she didn't show up to get a check.
Well,
I just want to make sure I
Ultimately.
understand.
Well, just you know, to expound on that a little more, Max had hired her own personal manager,
Okay.
which was fine.
Sure.
You know, but our position was that's fine, but that's your personal expense. It shouldn't be a company
Right.
expense. The manager that we had, we all agreed on him.
And we all agreed to hire him.
We all agreed
initially.
to hire him
Got it.
initially, and he was who was getting us work.
Mm-hmm.
The work was coming in.
Mm-hmm.
We couldn't say that we would accept shows because she wouldn't respond to us.
Okay.
Because she wanted to either fire the manager that we all agreed on, which was not a good idea,
Right.
especially at that time. One, there was no reason to fire him except that she just decided she didn't like him anymore. She felt like he was me and Cindy's manager. And we
Okay.
kept saying, well, Max, that's not the case. We all hired him together. He's not giving us no special attention.
Right.
You
We're
know?
not working any more than she, you know,
Mhm.
we
Right.
all, it was a group, you know, he booked shows for the entity.
Right.
And
So what it was she wanted us to either fire him or agree to take a part of our income and pay her personal manager.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, wait. Okay. We are talking to En Vogue, the official members of En Vogue, Cindy Heron, Terry Ellis.
Mhm.
This is a Cafe Mocha exclusive.
Original members of En Vogue, right?
Well, the official.
to the original members
Cindy
in
Heron,
here.
Terry Ellis. Now, so when last we met, you guys were having a management conflict,
Mhm.
and Maxine was unhappy with the management. You had all these gigs locked down. She refused to show up. How do we wind up in lawsuit?
Well, we couldn't really move forward. We, after a few, you know, she wouldn't communicate with us anymore except through email. And so we were emailing back and forth, and we were asking her very kindly, please come do these shows with us.
Mhm.
And her response would be no. And so finally, after about the second or the third, request for her to come do shows, we said, you know, until we know what you're doing, we have to have somebody come in here and fill in for you.
Okay.
But even before that, we were being threatened with, you know, her threatening us with an attorney.
Yeah, you're going to hear from my lawyer.
Oh.
And we weren't trying to take it there. That's an expense that nobody wants to incur.
Right.
And we never wanted it to go there ever.
Mhm.
But after
the
Many
second or the
shows.
third,
Okay.
also after the second or the third threat from her that we were going to hear from her attorney, we just said, you know, I guess we better retain somebody because I think she's going to sue us, you know, or she's going to attempt to sue us.
And
So
not only
we
that-
retained someone.
right,
And
not
that
only
is when-
because there were shows that we had all agreed on already that was on the books
Mhm.
that she just decided she wasn't going to do. So there's the potential of the company getting sued
Right.
if
Right.
we're not showing up, and the members that are supposed to be showing up aren't showing up.
Oh.
So the management had to go to the promoters to explain what was going on. They said, okay. So then we called Max and we said, well, we didn't call him. It was all by email. Max, we can't continue to operate like this. It's
Mhm.
affecting the brand, the company, our livelihood. If you don't respond, we're going to have to ask somebody to come in and fill in for you. And we were hoping, even when we called and had someone come in and fill in for her, we were hoping in the interim that things would work out.
Right.
So we only asked the girl, Rona Bennett, to come in for a couple of shows. Well, it continued to not be worked out.
Oh.
And then she just plain old just stopped responding after that.
So once we retained an attorney, of course, now he had to begin corresponding with her or her attorney
Right.
and requesting, that we arbitrate because, you know, he really did try to get us to work things out without ever having to get to arbitration. You know, he kept saying, well, do you think there's a way that she'll come back if you do this or that? And ultimately, her response was no. I'm not coming back to do shows until we work this management thing out. So once we retained our attorney and he began the process of communicating with her attorney, we had to file for arbitration because that was the only way we felt like we could work this out. And in the meantime, she got in touch with Dawn,
Mm-hmm.
or vice versa. We believe she got in touch with Dawn, and then they started promoting, you know, putting out there in the public that they were uniting to do another En Vogue. They had a group called En Vogue, Heirs to the Throne, and they started booking shows. Well, that's when the trademark name became an issue because it's just not good business for the brand to have two touring En Vogues in the market. And
Right.
ultimately,
That's how it was with the Temptations. Y'all remember? It was all these different Temptations, basically torn. They had two different Temptation groups touring out there. That's crazy.
it was affecting us getting work because the promoters were like, "How do I know who I'm getting? And I don't want
Right.
to hire any of y'all." And you know, it was
Right.
kind of like that. So then that became an issue. The name,
Oh.
you know, the trademark name became an issue, and that's how it became an issue in arbitration, and ultimately the arbitrator decided, and the federal court confirmed it, that we would,
You
be
guys
the
would
sole
retain.
owners of it. We would retain the name. It wasn't something we
Did you guys have to
Actually
go
going
in and
after.
testify or talk, or how did you win the case?
we had a day of arbitration,
Mhm.
where you're in an attorney's office, so it's not an actual courtroom, but you do have an arbitrator who is a judge,
Mhm.
and he's authorized to judge, look at all of the information, all of the exhibits that both sides submit,
Mhm.
look at all of the evidence, everything, and make a decision. And also, each side is cross-examined,
Mhm.
and then based on all of that, it really is like an 8-hour day
Okay.
of court, basically, but it's not in an actual courtroom, and the judge is the arbitrator. So after looking at all of the evidence, looking at our operating agreement, looking at the emails that went back and forth, he decided, and also looking at the fact that they were doing shows as En Vogue as well, and we already
Right.
had shows booked. It wasn't like we ever shut down the first En Vogue.
Right.
So
Right.
really,
Okay.
for there to be two in the touring market, it really was not good, all the way around. So after having looked at all of that, he decided that he should award us with ownership of the name. So we also filed with the federal court to have them confirm it,
Mhm.
and they did.
Damn. So, so Sydney and Terry owned retained the rights to it. Ever since then, shit, Maxine went back to the to En Vogue. She's back with them, right along with the Rona Bennett chick. So
Never gonna get it, 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 never get it.
Yes.
Sorry I'm late too, girl.
Heard it. Everybody heard it, right? You guys.
So why don't you walk through it with us? It doesn't mean I don't like my strong black brother. Never gonna get it, 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 never get it.
well, I mean, there you go. I mean, hopefully Dawn lands somewhere good. After coming out that she's been homeless. Hopefully she's getting offers from people. Hopefully she's you know able to get back and start doing what she loves, singing, get back to work. All right, y'all. I'm gonna conclude this this premiere. Make sure y'all like the video, subscribe to this channel, and share. I appreciate y'all.
If you crave nature but still shop online, Night and Day Herbals is your dream come true. Discover premium herbal soaps, shampoos, and CBD products. All organic, all for you. Shop now at nightandayherbals.com.